So about 2 years ago in 2023, James Gunn revealed his initial DCU slate to us, and this was going to be the foundation for which the DCU would be built off of in the future. Well, fast forward over 2 years later, and a lot of these projects we haven't gotten any updates on until just recently. During the last week of February, there was lots of news revealed about pretty much every DC project, like just about every project we know about has gotten an update. So I figured I'd just clump all of these projects into one video, talk about what we know about them, some new updates we've got on them, and just overall discuss the future of DC, what the DCU looks like now as opposed to what it looked like 2 years ago, because there have been a lot of big changes. And yeah, this is going to be a really long video, so let's not waste any more time on the intro, let's just jump right into the video. So first up on the release calendar for DC Studios is Superman, set for release on July 11th, 2025. This movie was announced back in 2022, and James Gunn has stated ever since that this will be the kickoff of the proper DCU. I think that what he means by that is that Creature Commandos was developed before the DCU was even a concept. It just happened to work within what James Gunn wanted to do with the continuity. The first trailer dropped in December, and it is a great trailer. I'm excited to see a more comic book inspired, lighthearted Superman this time around, and I'm also really excited to see what Nicholas Hoult can do as Lex Luthor. Lex is one of the best villains in DC, but aside from Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville, there hasn't really been a great live action Lex Luthor. I'm also excited to see what looks like the Justice League International. We've got Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Metamorpho, and most excitingly in my opinion, Mr. Terrific. A lot of people are worried these side characters are going to take away from the focus of Superman, and while I do think it's a valid concern, I think James Gunn is trying to actually make this feel like a lived-in comic book world, which is why these characters are involved. I will also say I'm excited to see what they do with Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner. Dude is known for being an asshole in the comics, and I feel like his character could work well with James Gunn's writing style. I'm really excited for this movie, and we're less than 5 months away now, and honestly, this is the most important project in the DCU by far. Like, it's not even close. If Superman fails, I think it's likely that most, if not all of the DCU projects following will be canceled. Then we go on a month later, releasing in August is Peacemaker Season 2. This will be a follow-up to Peacemaker Season 1, and we'll see the return of most of the Season 1 cast. Frank Grillo will also be reprising his role in live action from his animation debut in Creature Commandos. That is one thing that James Gunn mentioned about voice actors in the DCU, is that he wanted the actor that voiced them in the animation to also play them in real life. We still haven't got a trailer for this show, so it's anybody's guess what the plot could be. I think with Frank Grillo having a supporting role in this show, it's likely a major storyline will be him trying to get revenge on Peacemaker for killing his son. We see him grieve a lot in Creature Commandos over the loss of Rick Flag Jr., and I think it just makes sense if he's in the show that he'll end up going after Peacemaker. We also got a teaser image for this guy. I saw some people that thought it was Apache Chief. I'm not really sure, honestly. Could be a very obscure character considering James Gunn is involved. There has also been speculation that this show will include Green Arrow. Whether or not he'll be a supporting role, cameo, who knows. This dude, Harry Goodwin, wants to play him. He definitely looks the part, but I don't know who he is, so I can't say I'd be super excited, but he does look like a real-life version of Oliver Queen. At the end of the day, we still don't know what the plot of this show is going to be. My guess is that we'll be getting a trailer pretty soon, maybe late March, early April, but we'll just have to wait and see. Next up in early 2026, we're going to be seeing the Green Lanterns in live action for the first time in 15 years. Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre will star in an Earth-based show focusing on Lantern legend Hal Jordan and new Green Lantern John Stewart as they investigate a murder in the American Midwest. James Gunn described the show as like True Detective but with space cops, and that the Lanterns will come across a terrifying discovery that will tie into the overall threat of the DCU. We also know about a couple other cast members, Kelly MacDonald playing an original character, Sheriff Carey. This character is rumored to be Hal Jordan's love interest, which pissed a lot of people off because they want to see Hal and Carol like in the comics. My guess is that they're gonna make Hal a grumpy old man with a tragic past, and maybe part of that is he lost Carol at some point. We also know that Garrett Dillahunt is playing a character named William McCann. Not much is known about this character. It's been speculated he's playing Black Hand. I kind of thought so at first, but there's no way this show has both Sinestro, the ruler of the Yellow Lanterns, and Black Hand in the Black Lanterns. Maybe this is Black Hand before he becomes a Black Lantern, but I definitely don't see the Black Lanterns showing up in this show. Like I mentioned, Sinestro will be in this show as well. He'll be played by Ulrich Thompson and will be the character's DCU debut. Sinestro was one of my favorite DC characters when I was growing up, and I'm excited to see how he is handled in this show. My guess is that he's going to be the primary obvious suspect of the murder the Lanterns are trying to solve, but then ends up not having anything to do with it. Maybe he's just following Hal to get revenge on him and happened to be in the same town as him when a murder took place. I'm glad we're finally going to be able to see their rivalry in live action. It's definitely one of the things I'm looking most forward to about this show. We got this first look image of Hal and John the other day, and well, it kind of just looks like the two actors in a street. You can clearly see that this is the Midwest though. This looks like Iowa or somewhere around there. There are also rumors that they're going to go the route of Hal Jordan turning evil as he is possessed by Parallax. If you didn't know, it's a very famous story from the comics where Hal goes crazy and takes out the entire Green Lantern Corps and some fellow heroes as well. well. It's pretty controversial. I've talked to people who love this storyline, but I've also seen a lot of comments from Hal Jordan fans that hate his turn to the dark side. I'd honestly like to see Hal as a good guy and make it through this show. I want to see him interact with Barry and especially Oliver. Those are two iconic DC friendships, and it would suck if Hal turned evil or was killed off in the first season of Lanterns. Co-head of DC Studios Peter Safran also said that the show could go on for more than one season if it succeeds, which honestly was kind of disappointing news to me. Don't get me wrong, I want to see the Lanterns in the DCU, but I wanted to see a space opera, huge scale, big screen movie, not an Earth-based TV show. I feel like it's hard to make a Lanterns show in space because it would be really expensive, and I think they just fit the movie screen better. Like, I think that this DC property is best fit for the big screen. But yeah, that's all we have for Lanterns right now. It should release sometime early next year, and I can't wait to see it. DC, please send me like the first 4 episodes so I can review them. Following Lanterns, we have the release of Supergirl. So Supergirl is going to be the first Supergirl movie since the 1980s. Millie Alcock is set to star as the titular character, alongside Eve Ridley as Ruth, Jason Momoa as Lobo, Matthias Schoenaerts as Krem of the Yellow Hills, and David Krumholtz as Zor-El. If you've been watching this channel since it started, you'll know I'm a fan of Tom King's, and Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is a story I'm a huge fan of. Obviously, this story was announced in early 2023 to be getting a movie adaptation. Originally, it was titled Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, but they've since changed the name to just Supergirl. Tom King has also stated that in his original plans for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, he wanted to use Lobo, but DC editorial didn't allow him. So maybe we'll get to see what his original plans were for Lobo in this movie. Also, the way James Gunn described his vision of Supergirl gets me really excited for this version of the character. He describes her as a lot edgier and filled with rage because she was old enough to remember Krypton's destruction and lived on a floating rock out in space for a long time. She's not just a girl version of Superman, she's a very different character. I'm also very excited to see Lobo on the big screen for the first time. Not only does Jason Momoa actually kind of look like Lobo, but it's also the absolute perfect role for him to play, and I think everybody can agree on that. As for the creative team, Craig Gillespie is set to direct. I've only ever seen his film Dumb Money, which was about the GameStop stock going crazy in 2021, and yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. Other than that though, I really don't know much about him. The film was also written by Anna Nogueira, who has also been named in Hollywood Trades as the one who will be writing the Teen Titans script. I haven't seen anything she's written, so I can't really attest to her being good or bad, so we'll just leave it at that. Overall though, I am optimistic about this movie. I think this is the kind of comic book that could translate really well to the big screen, and I can't wait to see it. Then, following the release of the Supergirl movie in July, a couple months later we have the release of Clayface in September of 2026. I find it funny that of all these projects announced back in January 2023, this one is going to come out earlier than like half of them. I definitely agree with other people that Clayface is certainly a weird choice for a movie, but what gets me more excited for movies than anything else is the creative team behind it, and the creative team behind this project is pretty strong. Mike Flanagan is one of the best working horror directors in Hollywood, and reportedly is a big fan of the Clayface episodes from Batman the Animated Series. He wrote the script for the film, which definitely gets me excited for it. We caught a glimpse of this version of Clayface in the Creature Commandos trailer, and it was a nice little introduction. I think there's a chance that the Clayface movie actually takes place before we see him in Creature Commandos. I think if you're gonna do a Clayface that's also a horror movie, you have to throw his origin of becoming Clayface into the film. I'd like to see the slow downfall and turn of an actor who was once a big deal to then turning desperate and taking some unknown formula and then reaping the consequences for it in an awful way. Stating it that simply, it almost sounds like the plot of The Substance. We also know James Watkins has signed on to direct the project. He directed the American version of the film Speak No Evil. I only saw the original version, so I can't really speak to how I feel about him as a director, but regardless, I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with this film. We'll probably be getting more casting announcements soon, as the film is set to go into production this year. Next up on this list, we have Sergeant Rock. So Sergeant Rock was rumored to be in development for a while, but wasn't officially confirmed by James Gunn until very recently. Suspiria and Challengers director Luca Guadagnino is set to direct the film, and is expected to begin production later this year with a fall 2025 release date. So obviously this is going to be a World War II movie. We caught a glimpse of Sergeant Rock in the Creature Commandos episode Cheers to the Tin Man, and it was a cool little introduction to the character. Daniel Craig was rumored to portray the main character of Sergeant Rock, but has since dropped out of the running. Reports state that they're still looking for a lead actor to take on the project. Out of all the characters and properties getting adaptations on this list, this is definitely the one that I'm least familiar with. I haven't read much Sergeant Rock books at all. I know that his books focus on him leading Easy Company during World War II, and that sometimes his books have supernatural elements, but for the most part, it's grounded World War II storytelling. I'm really curious to see how the marketing will look for this movie, because it's going to be marketed as a DCU project, so casual audiences will automatically assume superheroes when superheroes might not be involved in this movie at all. I do think getting a director like Luca Guadagnino is an excellent choice, and it does get me more excited for it. I'm just really curious to find out what their vision is for this character. Now moving on to the next project on this list, we have the Teen Titans movie. So from this point forward, just about every DCU project I'm talking about is pretty much just confirmed by the title. A lot of these projects still haven't gone into production, submitted scripts, or confirmed directors. For some of these projects, it's actually all of those three things. Let's talk about Titans though. So we've known about this movie being in development for a while now, but it was only recently when James Gunn confirmed it. Anna Nogueira is writing the script. She also wrote the Supergirl script, so she'll be busy building this DCU. We don't know much of anything other than that. I would guess that because the script is being worked on, that it'll come out sooner than later. James Gunn has said that he thought Anna Nogueira's first draft was amazing, so that is something to be excited about. As for what the Titans look like, I have no idea. I initially thought that Brave and the Bold would come out first, but now I'm fully confident this will come out first. Because it's coming out first, it'll be before Damian is introduced, which means Nightwing will definitely be the Bat Family adjacent character that leads the Titans. I think he would have had a major role in this movie regardless if Damian was on the team, because in my opinion you can't have the Titans without Dick Grayson in some role. There were rumors early on about this project focusing on the DC Rebirth version of the Titans. I don't mind this version of the team, but I would much rather see Marv Wolfman's new Teen Titans on screen. I think it would be cool to follow characters like Nightwing and Kid Flash start off in the DCU as lesser roles before eventually carrying the torch of their mentors into the future. Regardless, we don't know any cast or characters that will be featured in this film, and we don't know the director, but even so, my hopes are really high as the Titans are easily a top 3 team in DC Comics in my opinion. Next up, we have Creature Commandos Season 2. This show will be the direct follow-up to Season 1 and will feature the Bride leading the team as well as G.I. Robot, King Shark, Nosferatu, and Dr. Phosphorus. Showrunner Dean Lowry is expected to return, and we can probably expect Season 2 in 2026 or 2027. I think the general notion about Season 1 was that it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good, and it'll be interesting to see where the story goes next. I wonder if they're gonna go bigger in scope with this story, because this time it'll be developed with the DCU continuity fully in mind. I know Season 1 was technically the start of the DCU, but even watching the show you can tell it was written in a time where WB and DC were kind of in a gray area and weren't really sure what to do. I doubt James Gunn will write the second season because he's busy with a lot of other projects, but I'm still interested to see where the story goes next. Next, let's talk about James Gunn's gothic horror movie Swamp Thing. So Swamp Thing was one of the 10 projects originally announced in James Gunn's DCU slate reveal. Pretty much all we know about this project is that James Mangold is set to direct it, and whenever he wants to come around and make the movie, he will. Back in 2023, Mangold said he was writing the scripts for his Star Wars movie and Swamp Thing simultaneously, and reports came out that his Star Wars project is set to begin filming sometime in 2025. This likely means that his Swamp Thing movie has been put on the back burner, and we won't see him start production on it until mid to late 2026 at the earliest. I am willing to wait on this one though. Like I said before on this channel, this is my most hyped up movie they've announced. Not only do I believe that Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run is one of the greatest comic books ever published, but I also believe James Mangold is one of Hollywood's best working directors. This dude has made one of the best superhero movies ever in my opinion with the release of Logan back in 2017, and seeing him take on another tragic comic book storyline really intrigues me. My guess is that we're years away from seeing this film, but in terms of my expectations, they are absolutely sky high. I'm going to be very disappointed if this movie is just mediocre or bad. Moving on to the next project on this list, let's talk about The Authority. So The Authority was one of the first projects announced in James Gunn's DCU slate back in 2023. When this was announced, I was so confused because you have so many teams from DC to pull from. You have the Titans, the JSA, Shadow Pact, but no, they decided to go with a live action feature film for The Authority. The Authority is a very violent superhero team and will do whatever it takes to save the planet, and they'll do it however they feel necessary. Suffice to say, things can get really violent when this team comes around. My hype for this project completely changed after I read the books. I picked up volumes 1 and 2 of The Authority after the announcement and was actually pretty surprised how much I loved them. Like a lot of projects on this list, we really haven't heard much of anything since it was announced. James Gunn confirmed over last weekend that they're having a lot of trouble nailing a story down for it, and that because the overall story has started to change, the project has been placed on the back burner. This is unfortunate news for me. I was really anticipating seeing this team on the big screen, and it does seem odd it's being delayed as they were looking to get some sort of setup in the Superman movie with the Engineer making an appearance. I think The Authority is a really fun team, and I'd be really disappointed if this project ended up getting canceled. There are so many cool and unique characters in this world, specifically Jack Hawksmoor and Jenny Sparks, and also Apollo and Midnighter on the big screen together would be really fun to see. There have been rumors from outside sources that they're considering changing this movie to animation, and like I said in the last video I made, it doesn't matter to me what form of media we get the movie in, I just want to see it happen. I think there's a lot of potential with these characters on the big screen, and at this point I'm already sold on getting them in the DCU, so I am going to be disappointed if we never end up seeing them. And it would also be weird to scrap this project considering we do have the Engineer officially making an appearance in the Superman movie. So yeah, DC, please don't give up on this project. I would love to see it, even if it's animation. So next, let's talk about our proper introduction to the DCU Batman with The Brave and the Bold. This was another project announced at the end of January 2023, and it is said to follow the story of Batman meeting his son Damian Wayne for the first time. James Gunn has said that Batman is his favorite DC character and Damian is his favorite Robin, so it made sense when he revealed the film would be heavily inspired by Grant Grant Morrison's Batman run. In my opinion, Morrison's Batman is one of the best Batman runs ever published, so I can definitely understand that decision. Soon after it was announced, the Flash director Andy Muschietti was revealed to be helming this new DCU Batman project as director. This was a few years ago at this point, and it's unclear if he is actually going to or not. The public reception of The Flash wasn't great. The general consensus was that the movie wasn't anything special, and Ezra Miller is a piece of shit. Because of this, I think it's not out of the question that Andy Muschietti will get axed from Brave and the Bold, and somebody else will take his place. We also got word from James Gunn and Peter Safran that the larger DCU Bat family will be featured in this film, and in my opinion, this pretty much guarantees that Nightwing and Batgirl will be in it. As for other members like Tim Drake, I'm just not sure. I feel like they might set it up where Nightwing is doing his thing with the Titans, Jason has already died, and Batman is currently alone when all of a sudden Talia shows up and reveals to Bruce that he has a son. Maybe Bruce is in a really difficult spot with the death of Jason, and Damian is how he gets brought back to reality. Now, if you read Batman comic books from the 80s and 90s, you'll know that that story originally belonged to Tim Drake, who basically forced his way into becoming Robin and helped Batman come back to Earth following his greatest failure, that was Jason Todd. I feel like giving that story to Damian instead of Tim doesn't make much sense because Damian is really edgy and his and Bruce's personalities don't mix very well. I know that Tim is the forgotten Robin, but he's my favorite Robin, and it would suck to see him get cut from the DCU just for the sake of continuity. Also, if you want to know more of my thoughts on the DCU Bat family, go check out this video. I worked pretty hard on it. Another thing about this movie is that I want it to go full comic booky. We haven't seen that in a live action Batman movie in my lifetime. I want to see the giant penny in the Batcave, maybe a Hush Batsuit with some blue accents. I want to see Killer Croc, Man-Bat, Clayface, and all these fantastical villains. Batman doesn't always have to be so serious. I think that studios are just afraid to take the chance because of how poorly Batman and Robin was received. This is one of those projects that will make or break the DCU, and I honestly don't think we'll be seeing it for a very long time. We already know that Matt Reeves' Batman sequel is set to release in October of 2027, despite there still not being a finished script, and I think they're going to give that movie at least a year and a half of breathing room before releasing another separate take on Batman. If you're Warner Brothers, you definitely don't want these films competing with each other, and they're probably also a little worried about confusing casual audiences with two Batmans so close together. There's so much to talk about with this movie, I feel like I could have actually just made an entire separate video, but here we are. Batman is my favorite superhero, so I am very excited to see him and Robin on the big screen together, and let's just really hope they get it right this time, because if not, it might be a very long time before we see Robin on the big screen again. On to the next project on this list, we have the Amanda Waller Show. So originally when it was announced, this show was described as Peacemaker Season 1.5, and that it would feature Waller teaming up with Team Peacemaker. We also know that Jeremy Carver from Doom Patrol and Crystal Henry from Watchmen were set to write the show, and that is pretty much all the news we had on it for a while. Well, over the last weekend, James Gunn gave us a small update on Waller, and it didn't sound great. It was discussed very shortly, and while Gunn said they had taken a couple cracks at it, it had been a bumpy road trying to get a story down for it, and it seemingly is also being put on the back burner. I wouldn't be too disappointed if this one got canceled. Don't get me wrong, I think Viola Davis as Amanda Waller was one of the best parts of the DCEU, and I do think that they could do some cool story arcs, whether it's her creating Cadmus or Checkmate, but overall this isn't a show that I need, and I'm glad with a lot of these projects they're not forcing anything just to get something out on their streaming platform. If they end up finding a story that works for it, then go with it, but if you can't find a story for this show, don't force it, you know what I mean? Next on the list, we have the Blue Beetle series. So this was announced last June and didn't get any official announcement or statement from DC Studios until recently. This show will be the sequel series to the Blue Beetle movie from 2023 and is reportedly looking to bring back the entire cast from the film. James Gunn also mentioned that while the series hasn't officially been greenlit, they're getting ready to present the show concept in hopes of getting it greenlit. I do wonder where you go next with the character of Jaime Reyes. Does he stay solo? Does he join the Titans? Does he join the Justice League? Does he go out and look for Ted Kord following the post-credit scene of the movie? Only time will tell what this Blue Beetle show ends up looking like. On to the next project we have on this list, we have a Bane and Deathstroke team-up movie. Well, maybe it isn't a team-up movie, but they're going to be at least the co-leads of it. This project finally got confirmed by James Gunn recently, and Moon Knight writer Matthew Orton is said to be penning the script. I've mentioned a couple times in this channel's history, we actually have no idea what this movie is titled or what the concept is. There are some people that think it's a Suicide Squad project, while others believe it to be something like Secret Six. I feel like a broken record, but I'll explain who the Secret Six are once again. They're essentially a team of mercenaries that work together for mutual gain. They usually consist of anti-heroes or straight-up villains, with Bane being one of the regular members. Deathstroke has never been in the Secret Six in the comics, but he does fit the concept really well. It's a team of mercenaries and assassins. I'm sure Deathstroke would fit in just fine. Out of all the projects on this list, I feel like this one is the biggest question mark as to the direction that it's going. We actually know virtually nothing about this project, and honestly I don't expect to for a very long time. Bringing us to the the next project we have on this list, Booster Gold. So this was announced in January 2023 and was described by James Gunn as a story about a time-traveling hero with imposter syndrome who travels to the current era of superheroes to become a hero himself. For a while, we had a lot of rumors about this show, some even suggesting that Kumail Nanjiani was cast as Booster Gold. At this point, I think it's safe to say we can put those rumors to bed, as Booster Gold got a pretty disappointing update. James Gunn said that they were waiting for a showrunner to make time for it, but things fell through and DC Studios had to pivot. This could mean a few things. Maybe they're actively searching for somebody to write and run the show, maybe they're looking for just a showrunner and maybe have a lot of the episodes written, or maybe it means they're entirely pivoting from a Booster Gold centric show and they're gonna make a blue and gold show instead, shifting focus to Booster Gold as he goes back in time to save Blue Beetle. I honestly think the last idea is the way to go. Beetle and Booster's friendship is one of my favorite friendships in all of comic books. I think they just play so well off each other, and if done right, it could be a home run of a show. Whatever they end up going with, I just really hope they don't end up canceling this show, because Booster is one of DC's best characters that general audiences don't know anything about, really. He worked the night shift at a museum in the 26th century, found a costume and time travel device, and traveled back in time to become a superhero for the glory. It's a really interesting and unique superhero origin story, and I think it deserves to be told whether it's on the big screen or the small screen. So DC, I know it's been hard to develop, but please keep trying. This could honestly be such a good show if you get the right creative team behind it. Booster Gold is such a great character. Next up, we have the Paradise Lost TV show. So this show was described by James Gunn as Game of Thrones, but with Amazons, and was said to follow the conflict of the Amazons leading up to Wonder Woman's birth. This show will likely take inspiration from the comic books Wonder Woman Historia and Wonder Woman The Circle. That is, if it even ends up happening. Like the rest of these projects, we got updates on the progress Paradise Lost has made since the announcement, and that progress has been zero progress. They still haven't moved forward at all with this project over 2 years since it was announced. This is why DC and Marvel annoy me with their slate announcements, because you're effectively just announcing a title card. Like, a lot of these movies don't have writers, directors, actors signed onto them or anything. It's literally just you're putting a graphic on the screen and saying, well, we're gonna make it eventually. And now half of these projects, it seems like, end up getting canceled. Okay, half's a little bit dramatic, but like, I think it's really annoying to announce projects when they're like not even in development yet, because you end up getting things like this that happen. Regardless, I'm honestly unsure if this show is gonna happen at this point. Pretty much every other project got a sliver of hope in their announcement, but not this one. In my opinion, they should just scrap it and give us a Wonder Woman animated series. This has been something I and other DC fans have wanted to see for a very long time. You have countless Superman and Batman animated shows, but Wonder Woman still doesn't have one. I do understand that this character deserves the big screen treatment at some point, but maybe you could have her solo movies take place in the present while her show takes place over the course of World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Cold War. I think it would be really interesting to see her go through time and meet important figures throughout the DCU timeline, especially characters like the JSA. I would love to see the Golden Age JSA get an adaptation, even if it's just in the Wonder Woman series. Sorry, I realize I completely went off on a tangent there, but there's not much to talk about with this show anyway, so I don't feel that bad. Now, last but certainly not least, we have Dynamic Duo. So this is the last project I'm going to be talking about on this list, and I know this one technically isn't confirmed to be DCU canon yet, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. This film is set to follow the relationship of the first Robin, Dick Grayson, and the second Robin, Jason Todd. This is going to be an animated film with a mix of different animation mediums. I think I remember hearing it was going to feature some stop motion, some puppets. I know I'm missing some details in there, but it is going to be a very different looking animated movie than we're used to, it seems. James Gunn has said that he's been trying to tweak the story to make it fit his DCU timeline, but that he's not sure he's going to be able to. That's mainly why I decided to add this project in here. It is actively being worked on to see if it can fit the DCU, so there is a chance it will be part of it. Honestly though, I would rather see this film be an Elseworld. Imagine you start the movie with Dick as Nightwing meeting Jason as Robin for the first time, you build up their relationship over years, show Jason's turn to Red Hood, and then you end the film with the Battle for the Cowl storyline. It could be this epic storyline spanning years that starts with them as teenagers and ends with them fighting over the right to be Batman. With all that aside, I'm very excited to see what they do with this project. I think the relationship between Dick and Jason is one of the most interesting dynamics in the Bat family, and I can't wait to see what they do with it, honestly. Dynamic Duo is set for release on June 30th, 2028. Well, there you go. That is all 20-ish DCU projects that we know are in development, and I just went over all of them. This video took me a really long time to make, so it would mean a lot if you guys liked and subscribed. DC has a very, very important couple months ahead of them, especially with the Superman release, and you know how these superhero movie slates work. They change all the time, so who knows, I could be back here in like a month updating this video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.